Listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Confidence comes with practice and taking action. So if you don't implement the tips that I'm about to share with you, you're not going to see any changes in your life. That being said, if you do apply these tips to your own life, you'll find that social interactions will become easier, you'll appear more confident, and you won't be as scared to talk to new people. I'm going to tell you guys a story that I think a lot of you are going to relate to. So a while ago, I got out of a long-term relationship, and needless to say, your boy's Riz was at an all-time zero, okay? I had basically no charisma, and I was just coming out of a relationship, so I definitely did not know how to talk to people, how to get people's numbers, how to just display myself in a light that showed off confidence. So one day I go to the gym, and I kid you not, bro, I saw the baddest looking girl ever. She was stunning, right? And I'm here doing my set, and then all of a sudden this thought pops into my head. I'm just like, hey, yo, you should go talk to her. And I kid you not, as soon as that stupid thought popped into my head, instantly I could feel my stomach just like turn upside down, bro. The fear, the crippling fear that spawned in my body as soon as that thought entered my brain. So as I was sitting there fighting my own demons, trying to work up the courage to talk to the girl, she left. She was out, she finished the set, she probably went home, and all I could think to myself was, how many missed opportunities, how many missed friendships, missed relationships are gonna come out of that one fear? The fear of going up to someone, introducing yourself, and just starting a conversation. That right there was my canon event. That was the moment that sealed my fate. And I was just like, you know what? It can't be, because I was watching videos all on TikTok about these guys who would just go up rizzing people, talking to people, and it wasn't necessarily the riz itself, right? It's not trying to charm somebody up so you could get their number or anything. I was like, how do these people have the confidence to go just talk to people they don't know and not be afraid of that? And I came to the conclusion, it can't be something that you're born with. It cannot be something that you're born with. And if it's not something that you're born with, it could be, that must mean it's a skill. That must mean it's something that you can build, something that you can improve over time. And I'm going to share with you how I built that skill. Let's hop into it. The trick is you have to put yourself in enough similar situations to the point where that fear of talking to somebody or talking to someone new starts to chip away. And I want to make it clear, this video is not how to riz people. This video is not how to talk to people, how to get phone numbers or anything like that. This video is going to teach you how to build that confidence in yourself, so where you could apply it to other situations, whether it's talking to someone you're attractive to, trying to sell yourself to a business partner, or when you're in an interview. This will, trust me, if you follow these steps, you will gain confidence. The first thing I did was start giving random strangers compliments. And I'm going to tell you exactly what this does. It doesn't really matter what the compliment is. I'm going to get into that a little later. But what this does is it breaks down the barrier of your fear to go and talk to a stranger. You know those thoughts that pop up in your head like, oh no, I don't want to bother them. Oh, what if they're in a bad mood? See, this is what's going to help you get over that hurdle of just talking to someone that you don't know. And before we go any further, I'm not talking about those really generic compliments like, oh, you look so pretty, you look so beautiful, oh, your eyes are sparkling. No, we're talking about picking one thing from a person that you see. The first thing that pops up out, you let it be appropriate though, but the first thing that pops out, just give them a compliment on that. To give you an example, for like a straight week, every time I went out the house, I would make it a rule that I had to compliment X amount of people. So maybe it'd be 5 people or 10 people or something like that. So if I went to the bus stop and I saw that somebody had a cool jacket, I'd be like, hey, I like your jacket. And then I'd end the conversation. And here's the beautiful thing about just giving compliments, right? Number one, it's not asking anything of the person, okay? You're not asking them to engage in a conversation with you or anything like that. It's completely in your control. You just say one word and their response doesn't even matter at that point. Number two, it spreads free joy. Everybody likes a compliment, bro. Regardless of who you are, everyone likes to receive appreciation. So you're spreading joy in the world. And number three, you can end the conversation right after. You can end it right after. It's so simple. You could say, hey, I like your shoes. And they could respond with whatever. They could say, oh, thank you. Or they could be like, thanks, man, I like your shoes too. And then you just say, okay, I hope you enjoy your day. That's it. That's all it is. Trust me, if you could get over that one hurdle, this is the initial point, bro. And I know this is where I'm going to lose a lot of you, because it's not easy to start doing that, especially if you have a tendency to be anxious or anything like that. So I'm going to share something that helped me with it. If you find that the idea of going to a random person and giving them a compliment scary, it's probably because you're attached to the outcome. You're thinking of the outcome of the situation. Oh, what's the person gonna say? What am I gonna respond with if they say this? Or what if they do this? What's gonna be my response to that? Stop that, okay? Eliminate the entire outcome. Separate yourself from the outcome, okay? The successful situation, this is the best case scenario. The best case scenario is that you went up and you said something to the person. You notice how that's completely detached from what they're doing? That's completely detached from how they respond or what they say or what happens if the sun blows up when you say the words, okay? It's completely in your control. This is all about you. It does not matter what they say. They could say F off. It's probably unlikely that they're going to say that, right? But they could just imagine that they say the worst thing to you. It does not matter, because the success case in this scenario is you walking up to the person and saying something. And trust me, it's hard on the first one. It's hard on the first one. But if you set like a goal of, okay, I'm going to compliment 5 people when I head out today. If you set that goal, after the first one, you find that the second one, the third one, the fourth, the fifth one, they just come easy. They come natural, right? And here's something, I really want to share this phrase with you. Just remember that the fear of anticipation is always worse than the pain of reality. So basically what that phrase means is that the scenario that your mind tends to make up, or the anticipation to something happening, you'll always assume that it's going to be worse than how it actually plays out. So you going up to somebody and saying, hey, I like your hair, and then your brain might concoct some scenario in which, some bad outcome. It's always, the thing in your head is always going to be worse than what actually plays out. So try to keep that in mind. And honestly, this step alone is going to move mountains in your life, because not a lot of people can do this. Not a lot of people can just go up and compliment a random person. But I find it's easier that when you're first starting out, compliment people who you're not necessarily attracted to. Because when you're attracted to somebody, you get butterflies in your stomach, you start to get scared and everything like that, right? So what I used to do was, any elderly person that I saw, any guy that I saw, yes, compliment the guys too, bro, because you're not gonna be worried about that. It don't mean anything about who you like or anything like that. You can just, it's completely natural or completely okay for you to just go up to a dude and just be like, hey yo bro, I like your shoes, I like your jacket, it looks fresh, hey yo, fresh haircut, fresh fit, bro. They don't mean nothing like that. Come on. Now, once you get comfortable with giving people compliments and ending the conversation, we're going to step up the game, okay? So now what you're going to do is you're going to compliment the person and you're going to ask something about the thing you complimented them on. For example, hey, I like your shoes. They might say, oh, thanks, man. And then you'd be like, oh, where'd you get them from? It only has to be one question. One question. Do not overcomplicate this. Don't overcomplicate this. The reason that we're doing this is because it's going to get you in the habit of thinking on your feet and just carrying a conversation just a little bit further. Because if you think about it, that's all a conversation really is. Most conversations are people asking questions, answering the question, or adding on to the answer of somebody else. Here's another example. Hey, I like your hair. They'd be like, oh, thank you. Be like, oh, did you do it yourself? And they may say, oh, no, somebody else did it for me. And then you'll say, oh, well, it looks really nice. I hope you have a good day. End the conversation. Same steps. The only thing we're doing is we're adding one extra step, which is asking a question. You give a compliment, they say whatever, you ask a question, and then you end the conversation. Just like that. Easy peasy. And speaking of questions, can you hit the like button? You've been watching this video this entire time. I know you've been getting free game from this video, bro. And you still ain't hit the like button yet. I'll give you a second. It's fine. I don't know. Sometimes I'm forgetful too. But hit the like button. Now, like I said, these tips are worth absolutely zero if you do not go out in your own life and apply them, right? So even if you got to pause this video, save it, put in your watch later, and then come back to it, make sure that you go and do those. I would say do it for at least do it for 3 outings. You'll find after the first outing where you start to compliment people, it's going to be a little hard. And then by the 3rd outing where you're complimenting people and you're asking them a question, it's going to seem easy. All right, so now you're used to talking to people, starting conversation, holding it on for one question. Now we're going to add one more step. You see how we're just going in tiny increments? Baby steps, bro. The next step is going to be to introduce yourself or ask the person for their name. Now, in each one of these exercises, we're doing this for a specific reason. This is to get you used to actually introducing yourself to people, because once you've exchanged names, you're no longer strangers. Now that you've got a name, they're like, okay, I've got a name to associate with this face. You're not just a random person on the street anymore. And like I said, it's easier to do this when you're not attracted to the person, or if you're talking to another dude, or you're talking to an elderly lady or something like that. An example of the situation goes, hey, I like your jacket. They say, whatever. Be like, where'd you get it from? Oh, someplace. And then you go, it's like, oh, by the way, what's your name? And they might say their name, and then you'd be like, hi, I'm whatever. And then you'd be like, you have a good day. End the conversation, bro. No reason to stay there. You've done your job. Move on to the next one. Also, feel free to freestyle or add your own little twist to things. You know, this your life. This your world. We're just living in it, right? But these are going to give you the building blocks of going up to somebody you don't know, extending the conversation just a little bit so you realize it's not that scary to like ask somebody a question about something, and then you get somebody's name, so that kind of gets you into the swing of things of actually introducing yourself to people, and it's not that scary. People aren't gonna like shoot you if you ask for their name or anything like that, man. So yeah, these steps are gonna get you, these are gonna help build your confidence, and as you go through these things, remember, the success is you doing it. Has nothing to do with the outcome. If you ask for somebody's name and they're like, I don't know you, I'm not giving you my name, chalk it up, move on. Okay, big whoop. You did what you were supposed to do. That was a W. Remember, the whole key is to gain the confidence to talk to other people, and you did your job. So that's a GG. That's a GG right there. Chalk it up, move on to the next one. All right, so we've gone over the 3 steps. Okay, so like you should be doing this in increments too. Like, not just don't do it on the first go around. So like the first week you focus on just complimenting people. When you realize that you're not as afraid to do that anymore, you take it a step further, you ask them a question, and when you realize you're not afraid to do that anymore, you move on to asking them for the name. Okay, so now we're gonna level up. We're gonna go into the big boy league now. All right, so now what you're gonna do is you're gonna start targeting people. Now what do I mean by targeting people, right? When I first started doing this and I got used to talking to these people, I was like, okay, let me up the ante, right? I started only doing this to people who had earphones in, and that's scary. I know there's gonna be a lot of people who are just like, oh, if somebody has their earphones in, then that means they don't want to talk to you. So what? You never know if somebody is willing to talk to you. As far as all of us are concerned, you can't leave your house without seeing someone with their earphones in. All right, you gotta stop being afraid to bother people. Obviously, if someone is like giving you signs like, hey, yo, don't mess with me. For example, if you're at the gym, someone has their earphones in, or somebody's like reading a book, like they're in their corner, okay, obviously, you know, use your common sense. But if there's somebody sitting on the bus stop, you know, they're jamming out to their music, they don't seem like they're in a bad mood or anything, what I would do was I would just go and I would take 2 fingers and I'd just tap them on the shoulder like this. And I'd just be like, as soon as they take the thing out, I'd be like, hey, I really like your hair. And you'd be surprised You'd be surprised at how many people's face light up when you give them a compliment like that. Something that they didn't even expect. You know what I mean? This is definitely hard, but once you realize, like, and you shouldn't do this to every person. You got to read the situation. For example, if somebody's walking across the street, they look like they're rushing somewhere, they got their earphones in, don't run up behind them and just be like, hey, yo, okay, that's a little weird, right? If you spot an opportunity, like somebody's sitting down, they just happen to have their earphones in, I would say stretch it, you know, go tap them, just be like, hey, I really like your hair. Like I said, what is the success case? That you went up to the person and that you spoke to them. Now, this specific scenario is going to give you confidence when it comes to approaching people who you think you're going to be bothering, right? Once you get over that fear, obviously, I'm going to say this again, do not just go around just messing with people. Read the room at least a little bit. But it's going to give you a little bit more confidence, so you're not going to think like, oh, am I going to ruin this person's day? That one was kind of optional, but this one is mandatory. Now what you're going to do, remember how I said the first time we're only going to focus on people that we're not attracted to, talking to other guys, elderly people, that sorts, right? Now you got to put it to the test. You're going to try the same thing with people who you are attracted to. And trust me, bro, that's a whole different ballgame. Like I said, start small. Go back to 0. Go back to the basics. Go back to just saying like, hey, I like your shoes. Hey, I like your jacket. Hey, I like your bag. Hey, that's a nice fit. Simple stuff. And then cut the conversation. But the point is, now you're going to someone that you're actually genuinely afraid of how they think of you, or you're a little wary, you know, you got a little butterfly in your stomach now. And just like the previous times, you're gonna find that the first time is gonna be scary, but eventually, you've been doing all of this work. You've been talking to people. I'd assume that you've been, like, if you're following these steps and you're doing it in like tiny increments, you've probably been doing this for at least 2 weeks now, or at least a couple of days. So you've built up that experience, you've built up that confidence, you realize it's not that scary as you originally thought, right? And then you're just gonna keep moving up. Start with a compliment, start asking questions. Sometimes you may feel like on certain days, you may not feel like your confidence is really booming. So you might have to regress a little bit. You might have to go from asking people from their names back to just giving compliments. Every situation is different, but the point is you're taking action. Now we're moving on to the final step, and we've saved this for the people that you are actually attracted to, and that is asking someone for their socials or their number. It depends on the situation. You got to read the room a little bit. Most people are more comfortable with giving their social media, like their Instagram or their Snapchat or anything like that. But basically, we're gonna up the ante. You're talking to people that you're attracted to. You're just gonna add one final step, which is asking them for their social. So an example of how this conversation might go: you might go up to somebody who you find is pretty or attractive. You'd be like, "Hey, I like your hair," and then they'll be like, "Oh, well, thank you," and then ask them, "Oh, did you do it yourself?" And they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I actually did it myself. It took super long," and all of that. And then you can respond with just be like, "Oh yeah, I could imagine. Oh, what's your name, by the way?" And this be like, "Hey, my name is X." Be like, "Hi X, my name is Y," right? And then be like, "Nice to meet you." And they'll be like, "Nice to meet you too." And then you can ask them, be like, "Hey, do you mind if I get your Instagram? Hey, do you mind if I get your Snapchat?" Simple conversation, probably didn't take you longer than 30 seconds. And yes, I understand this is easier said than done. Even I get in situations where I'm just like, my tongue, like it's like I got a frog in my throat, like I can't speak. My hands get all shaky, you start shivering, you feel butterflies in your stomach. I understand that, right? But the point is, when you put yourself in that situation, even if it doesn't go your way, even if they tell you like, "Hey, yeah, I got a boyfriend," "Hey, like, no thanks, I don't give out my social media," it has nothing to do with you. That wasn't the point of this. The point was to build confidence so that you're no longer attached to the outcome. Number one, you're not attached to the outcome anymore. And then you're not afraid of approaching the situation because you've survived that situation so many times before. You've been doing this. You've probably done this like 20 or 30 times at this point, right? And you realize it's not as scary as your brain originally made you believe. So I bet you guys are wondering whatever happened to that girl that I saw in my gym. Did I ever see her again? And the answer is yes, I did see her again. This is how that situation played out. So I must have been following these steps for maybe like 1 or 2 weeks, right? Not even that long, but I got to the point where I was like genuinely okay with talking to people. I would strike up conversations on the bus. I got a few numbers. I got a number at the mall. I got a number on the bus too. Different situations. I wasn't attached to the outcome, but the fact was I was actually doing it. So one time I'm in the gym and I see Miss Little Perfect, right? And this time she's working on the leg press. And I feel that I get this thing in my head where I'm just like, "Hey, yo, it's that same girl." And I had that voice in the back of my head that was like, "Hey, yo, you should talk to her." But then that same boy from 2 weeks ago, I hear his voice too, and he was just like, "Hey, yo, man, like, I don't know, man, like, we shouldn't go talk to her." But then the new voice, he was like, "Hey, yo, what was all this work for? You could go and talk to all of these people, but you're still afraid to talk to the one person who started it all and whatnot. What was it for?" So I took a deep breath, and I was like, "You know what? You're right. You're right. This was what I was preparing for. Let's see if it actually worked." So I took a deep breath. I walked up to the girl. I freestyled it a little bit, and I was just like, "Hey," what did I say? It doesn't even matter what I said because I just freestyled it, and I was just like, "Hey, I see you know what you're doing. Do you have any tips?" I don't know. The point was I said something. I can't remember what the riz was back then, but the point was I said something. And she responded. I started a brief little conversation with her about the gym and whatnot. And at the end, I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I get your number?" I'm hitting her with the smile. She's smiling back at me and she goes, "I have a boyfriend." I know, man. I was a little bummed out too, but I basically played it off and I was just like, "Hey, you know what? That's fine. I'll let you continue your workout. It was nice meeting you." I did ask her for her name before I asked for the number. But that just goes to show you, man, just like, even though I didn't get the number, even though like nothing came out of it, at least I could say that I didn't talk myself out of it. You know what I mean? At least I could say, "Hey, I found out for myself." I wasn't too afraid to go and speak to her. I put it out there. And I was just myself. I was just myself. I went and talked to her, and although it didn't go my way, I could be proud of the fact the same success scenario, I just said something. That's all it was. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hit the like button. You heard me before, bro. You heard me before, yet you ignored me, bro. Hit the like button. And like I said, this video is not about Riz. This video is not about trying to talk up people. It's about you overcoming your fear of talking to people. And if you like this video, you might actually like this one. So I advise you check it out. That's all for me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.